Morning. Well, it must be spring because this past week my allergies have been total full bloom. But if I cough, I'm not contagious. I went to the doctors last week. I was so concerned, and I was assured that this is only allergies. They gave me inhalers and something for my lungs and all kinds of things, but they said it's nothing, not a cold, not pneumonia, you just have allergies. And so this past week I really felt the full glory of spring with my whole body. And if you're thinking about how, wow, I'm really feeling the spring, I mean totally everywhere, every moment it feels as if I'm feeling springtime is here. I remember some years ago we had a wonderful guest speaker, Dr. Leslie Kawamura from the University of Calgary as our speaker. He was a classmate of Reverend Yukawa, and he was a world-renowned Buddhist scholar, especially on Tibetan Buddhism. But when I saw Reverend Yukawa and Dr. Kawamura together, you could tell they were just great friends, reliving old times from their student days. And like Reverend Yukawa, Dr. Kawamura had a way of making his point using everyday images and examples. And I remember him asking a simple and yet most intriguing question. He asked the Sangha when he spoke that day, "What is the Dharma? What is the Dharma?" Well, Dharma, we usually think of as the teachings of the Buddha, and as we know here, in the greatest meaning of the word Dharma, it means truth, undeniable, universal truth. But Dr. Kawamura, Reverend Kawamura, gave us a definition of Dharma not for us to just think about, but he gave us a definition of the Dharma for us to feel. And he used an example we could all immediately sense and feel. In answering his own question, what is Dharma? Dr. Kawamura said, the Dharma is our heartbeat. The Dharma is our heartbeat. He said that when we hear something, when we feel something with our whole heart, our whole being, our whole body, when we feel something with our whole heart and we are changed by it, that is the Dharma. When we feel something with our whole heart and it changes us, that is the Dharma. I remember that when he spoke here, he had only recently lost his mother, and perhaps this was why, in feeling this deep loss, he used the mother's love as his example. He said, when we think about our mother's love, we feel that love. We feel that love deep within us. And he said, perhaps even our heart beats faster. And we are not separate from that love, a love that has nourished us from the time we were born. We are never separate from our parents' love. Instead, he said, we are one with our parents' love. It is in our hearts. It is in our heartbeats. April has become a very thoughtful month for the members of my family. April is the month that I lost my dad, and 6 years after losing Dad, April is the month that I lost my mom. And although many years have now passed since I lost my dad, and although many years have passed since Patty and I have both lost our moms, we can still hear their voices calling our names. And when we close our eyes, we can still see their faces smiling at us. We can feel the warmth of their nurturing love. So when Dr. Kawamura spoke here, I thought it was interesting that this world-class Buddhist scholar was not talking about Buddhism using academic words, concepts, just phrases. In fact, he said that when our concerns are merely intellectual, there is no real understanding of the Buddha Dharma. He said, when our concerns are just intellectual, there is no understanding of the Dharma. In other words, he said, if we're only talking about the meaning of Namo Amida Butsu, then we can never understand it. If we are at the stage of just trying to define what the Dharma is, then it's just a curiosity. He shared a story about a student at his university in Calgary that came to him with a problem. And when the student finished relating his problem, Dr. Kawamura said to him, looking at the student, he said, and he was very soft-spoken, he said, "You don't have a problem yet, because you're still just thinking about it." And the student answered, "What are you talking about? I do have a problem. I'm depressed, I'm confused." And Dr. Kawamura told him, "No, you're still just thinking about a problem. You're still thinking about having a problem. You don't have a real problem yet." And I remember thinking, wow, that was very Zen master-like, huh? Very Zen master-like response. But Sensei used this as his example that when we just intellectualizing things, then our concerns are just academic. We're just thinking about life, and there's no real understanding of the Dharma. And so he told this student who came in to talk to him about his problem, he said, "It may sound silly, but a real problem, a real concern would be if your hair was on fire. If your hair was on fire, you wouldn't walk into my office and sit down and say, Dr. Kawamura, I have a problem here. My hair seems to be on fire and I don't know what to do about it." And Dr. Kawamura said to him, "If your hair was on fire, you'd be doing something about it. You'd be doing something about it right now, huh?" And he said, "Now that's a problem." Young Prince Siddhartha, whose birthday we celebrated last week with Hanamatsuri, he was not merely thinking about his unhappiness when he renounced his title and his kingdom and his inheritance, and he left his home and his family. In a way, Dr. Kawamura said his hair was on fire. He was so deeply troubled that he had to do something about it right away. He had to do something about it right now. As Dr. Kawamura said, Siddhartha found that the very foundation of life itself needed addressing. He went off in search of truth and found the Dharma in his own heartbeat. Siddhartha went off in search of truth and found the Dharma in his own heartbeat. He awakened to the truth of life and realized that life is as fragile as a soap bubble. The whole of the Buddha Dharma, the essence of Buddhism, as even our young students here know, is to clearly understand, to see that in life everything is impermanent, that everything is constantly changing. Each of us here in our minds, academically, we know this truth. Conceptually, we know this. But when we experience this reality, then suddenly there is no doubt we understand the Dharma. The Dharma is in our hearts, in our heartbeats, and we feel it with our entire being, with our whole body. This is how we truly come to know the teaching of the Dharma, he said. It is in our heart, in our heartbeats. It is in the moment of living right now, in knowing love, in living life. The reality of loss inevitably enters our lives, and we experience undeniably the true meaning of impermanence. And with this awareness, our Dharma eyes open, and we begin to see what is really of value in living each day. Too easily, we do take for granted our family and friends, those who are closest to us. But with Dharma eyes open, we remember again that we must live not taking for granted all that we have. Dr. Kawamura reminded us that there was a time when monks would have walked from, they would take wooden boats from Japan to China, and monks would walk from China to India just to hear the Dharma. Hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful teaching. They would walk through for hundreds and hundreds of miles to really encounter the Dharma. And then he asked, how many of us would even walk from our home to come to the Betsuin to hear the Dharma? Our lives are so comfortable and so good. We live now in such convenient times that folks rarely walk or run anywhere out of necessity. Today, walking and running is considered exercise. Last week, our Hanamatsuri guest speaker, Bhante Sila Vimala, talked about how in Sri Lanka, people walk for miles and miles to come to the temple to hear the Dharma. And so, when they have special gatherings, and people come from so far away to hear the Dharma, they will talk for minimum of 3 hours. And if the gathering is at night, because it's too dangerous to walk home in the dark, they will have Dharma talks through the night, from 9 o'clock to 6 in the morning. So I told him, next time I will speak for 3 hours. So I have 2 hours and 45 minutes to go. But as Dr. Kawamura asked us, how many of us would walk even from our homes to come to the Betsuin to hear the Dharma? But Bhante explained to us that this is why effort is a part of the Eightfold Path. We have to make the effort to truly encounter and feel the Dharma with our hearts, with our lives. We rarely walk anymore, not really. So to bring this example perhaps a little more up to date, maybe if we think about as we drive down the winding and twisting road of life, it is the Dharma that fills our tanks, tunes our engines, aligns our wheels, and cleans off our windows so we can better handle the twists and turns, the potholes and road hazards, and most importantly, see clearly the nature of things. When we truly see things as they are, we begin to live and to feel that genuine sense of gratitude that we call onembutsu. So with this awareness of how we have to make that effort to truly hear the Dharma, feel the Dharma, not just intellectualize it, but feel it with our whole lives, as I'm feeling the spring with my whole body, I hope we'll make this effort to continue to truly embrace the Dharma, open our Dharma eyes and see every moment, every day is one to appreciate, especially those whose lives give meaning to our own. In closing, please join me in Gassho. As we drive down the winding road of life, it is the Dharma that fills our tanks, tunes our engines, aligns our wheels, and cleans off the windows so we can better see clearly the nature of things as they are. When we see things as they are, we begin to live and feel the genuine sense of gratitude we call onembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.